Hello, fifth graders. This is going to be your ELA lesson today. This is what they're doing in class, and this is what you will be doing at home as well. So the first thing you're going to be doing is gathering and elaborating on evidence from chapters 6 through 8 that we read last week. And then you'll be exploring the word truce, and then we will be doing a question set in Clever. So our focusing question we're trying to answer is, what important beliefs and values guide Chief Joseph and his daughter Sound of Running Feet? And so we are asking, how do I gather and elaborate on evidence to prepare for focusing question task 5? And a reminder, focusing question task 5 is going to be a compare and contrast paper about Chief Joseph's beliefs and Sound of Running Feet's beliefs. So we're going to be looking for ways that they have similar beliefs and ways that they have different beliefs and values. So that's why we are gathering evidence and elaborating on it, because that's going to make writing the paper so much easier for you. So the first thing that you need to do is gather evidence from chapters 6 through 8. If you don't remember those chapters, I highly encourage you to go back and read them or listen to them again. If you have your book at home, wonderful. That's going to make it a lot easier for you because you can find exact quotes. If you don't have your book at home, you're going to have to listen to chapters again and pause when you find a quote, and you're going to have to listen to the quote so that you can write it in your evidence. Write your evidence on your recording sheet. So while you're listening, you should be thinking, in chapter 6, I noticed Sound of Running Feet said blah, 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 blah. This shows me that Sound of Running Feet values blah, blah, blah. Or this shows me that Sound of Running Feet believes blah, 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 blah. So your job today is to find one piece of evidence for each character, Sound of Running Feet and Chief Joseph. What I'm telling the class in person is that there are some good ones on page 35, 38, and 40. Now, what's difficult for you guys is in the YouTube videos, it doesn't tell you what pages they're reading from. So you guys will have to go through and listen for quotes that you think give good evidence about what Sound of Running Feet and what Chief Joseph believe in. If you want to, you can wait until language arts time later, like 1:30 or something like that, and you can ask, or just after school today, and you can ask students to share what quotes they came up with in class, because I know they're working on this together in class. Otherwise, you guys are going to need to find them on your own and then add them to page 17 in your class kick, which looks like this. Oh, sorry, it doesn't look like that. It looks like this. So the first thing you'll need to do is put the evidence in. So if you find a quotation from the story, you are going to write in this section the exact quote, just like when we wrote about Chief Joseph. I have many names, but Thunder Rolling in the Mountains is the name that binds me forever to this land of the wandering waters. That was our quote, and we put it in evidence. Then we needed to give a little bit of context so that the person that's reading this knows what's going on. For example, if your mom or dad read your paper, they've never read this book before, and we want to make sure they understand it. So at this point, when Chief Joseph said that, he was talking to Chief Howard, General Howard, about why they shouldn't leave their homeland. So knowing that he was talking to Chief Howard about why they shouldn't leave their homeland helps me understand why Chief Joseph said that quote about his name. Then I'll write down what page number it was on. You guys are at home, so you might not know the page number that you find, but you can leave this blank until you get to school and you have your book, and then we can find the page number for it. And the most important part is the elaboration piece. You guys need to tell me, why is this piece of evidence you just wrote in this section important? What does this show us? So you guys will write down, this evidence is important because, or this evidence shows us that Chief Joseph values his homeland because he has a spiritual connection to it, right? Or if yours is about Sound of Running Feet, maybe you find a quote in the story, like when she goes and rescues Red Owl, she makes sure that the girls that are there are taking care of the other younger kids, and she goes after Red Owl to make sure that he is safe. And so we can find that piece of evidence in the story, and then our elaboration piece would be, this evidence shows that Sound of Running Feet cares about keeping her people safe. And Chief Joseph believes that too, right? So we've already found a similarity that we can write about the two of them. They both care about their people a lot. So you guys can find that quote and you can use that. I believe that's either chapter 6 or chapter 7 that she does that. It's chapter 6. So if you want to listen to chapter 6 for that quote that I just was talking about, that was the quote on page 35. You guys can put that quote in yours, and you can use the elaboration that I just said. All right, so you guys should pause the video, and you guys should go and do that. One for Chief Joseph, one for Sound of Running Feet, and then come back. Welcome back. All right, so for the vocabulary deep dive today, we're going to be exploring nuances of the word truce. Here is a quote from the story with truce in it. The chiefs sent out a truce party. 5 warriors rode to meet the soldiers. One of them carried a white flag to say that we did not wish war. The other young men waited on their horses, hidden behind the buttes. What clues in this passage tell you what the word truce means? Think about that. Tell somebody next to you. Tell it to your hand. Yeah, I think some good clues are that they carried a white flag to say that we did not wish war. This is important. They carried a white flag to say they did not wish war. So we know that it is some sort of surrender or saying that they don't want to fight. So that's a good clue as to what truce means. In Old English, trial, which is where the word truce comes from, means faith, truth, fidelity, or pledge, promise, agreement, and treaty. What did you learn about the meaning of truce from the etymology? That's what this is, an etymology. Faith, truth, fidelity, pledge, promise, agreement, treaty. Well, to me, it sounds like they're making some sort of agreement to be truthful to each other. They're keeping a promise. They're being faithful to each other. So that makes it seem to me like it's an agreement on both sides that they're going to keep some sort of agreement, maybe that they're not going to fight or that they're going to keep the peace with one another. That's what it sounds like to me from this etymology. So now you guys are going to be filling out this handout 20A, and I had it rigged up so that it was just going to be showing this one at a time, but I guess you guys are just seeing it all at once, and that's okay. But on page 25 in ClassKick, you guys are going to fill this out for the word truce. And if you need to just pause the video and copy it over, that's great. So the definition of truce is an ending of armed conflict by mutual agreement of warring parties, meaning they're going to stop fighting. They agreed together that they weren't going to fight, either for a period of time or forever. Characteristics, this section over here, characteristics of the word truce is both sides need to keep their word, and they have to be honest and true, and we saw that in the etymology on the screen before this. Some examples of a truce would be playing tag. You're playing tag on the playground and it's time to line up. So you make a truce with your friend so that you guys don't tag each other until you start the game up again next recess. That would be a truce. Or another example would be warring countries, countries that have war with one another. They will make a truce during the holidays so that neither one of them has to worry about a war on their holidays. Non-examples of a truce would be someone calls a truce when you're playing tag, but then tags them anyway. That would be a non-example. That's the opposite of a truce. Another non-example would be warring countries truce during the holidays, but one country attacks the other anyway. That's another non-example of the word truce. So if you still need a little bit of time to copy these over, pause the video and copy them over to ClassKick. And the final thing you can copy over is the official definition on page 1 in ClassKick. Truce is a noun. It's an ending of armed conflict by mutual agreement of warring parties. And some synonyms or examples would be an armistice or a ceasefire. So if you've heard people yell before, ceasefire, it means they're going to stop shooting at one another. So the last thing I want you guys to think about, based on your understanding of the word truce, were you surprised by the soldiers' actions, firing on the truce party? So we read that the Nez Perce went out with a white flag wanting to surrender. That's what we saw here. They carried a white flag to say that they did not wish war, and then the soldiers fired on them anyway. So now that you know what the word truce means, are you surprised by the soldiers' actions? Why or why not? Use evidence from the novel to support your opinion. Share it with yourself. Share it with somebody next to you. I was a little bit surprised by this because I felt like if they were making a truce and they were agreeing to not fight with one another, it seems like one side broke that agreement by shooting at the other team. That's what it seems like to me anyway. All right, and the last thing that you should do today, and you don't need the video for this, but this just tells you the directions. You need to log into Clever, which is an app on your guys' iPad. If it's not downloaded, you need to download it. And once you log in with the school, Spring Lake Park Public Schools, you'll sign in with your normal username and password, 28, mine would be mwilly for Michaela Williams, at mypanthers.org, and then your normal password. Then you'll click on the Great Minds In Sync app with black and white boxes. And then once you get in, you can click on assignments, or it should actually just show up for you on the main screen. And you're going to end up reading a text from Thunder Rolling in the Mountains and answering the questions. I believe it is called, let me see. I want to find it so that it's called Grade 5 Module 1 Assessment 20 Question Set 1 or something like that. It's kind of a long title, but it'll just show up when you get into Great Minds In Sync, and it's just a short little text from Thunder Rolling in the Mountains, and then I think 6 or 8 questions that they ask you about it. So when you're done, you are done with language arts for the day. Nice job today. You guys are awesome.